What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. So, Russia is actually claiming that the U.S. planned the alleged drone attack on the Kremlin, as Ukraine's civilians are now suffering the retaliation, and that the U.S. was involved in this. Yeah, that's right. But you can also see here there are big problems with the way the Kremlin drone incident went down. And there are multiple war experts saying that Russia, quote, likely staged it. Yeah. So we're seeing a lot of different stories come out here now as this, quote, assassination attempt on Russian President Vladimir Putin's life, well, obviously wasn't successful, wasn't even close. It really exploded on the top of the Kremlin there. And coincidentally, was caught on camera. And Russia's saying that they defused the bomb with electronic sensors type of deal. And the question here now is, did a drone make it all the way from the Ukrainian border, which is like 450 kilometers minimum, which is like almost 300 miles? Did a drone make it all the way through Russian defenses and make it all the way to the top of the Kremlin without them noticing it or shooting it down? Which is, I mean, you got to kind of think about that here. Well, did Russia let a drone get all the way through and then shoot it down on top of the Kremlin, which is really not a good look for them to begin with, that they made it all the way through their defenses to the, that would be like shooting a drone down on the top of the White House, right? First of all, that wouldn't be a win for the White House or the U.S. defenses. Or did Russia stage it, and this is a staged media event, and they just blew it up themselves, and then they're going to use it as escalation, and maybe even where they're saying like a false flag event, and maybe they can use this as a excuse to use nuclear bombs or missiles. Here's what the White House is saying. Take a look at this here.
Admiral, good morning. What has been the advice and counsel from the United States, from the Biden administration, toward President Zelensky and the Ukrainian military about attacking within the borders of Russia? That was one of the reasons we were skeptical when this news broke yesterday, and many others have been since, which was that Ukraine knows that this would be an escalation if they were to reach that far within Russia. So what has the United States told Ukraine about that?
Well, obviously, we don't, we certainly don't dictate to them the terms by which they defend themselves or the operations they conduct. However, we've been clear with them publicly, and we've been clear privately that we do not encourage nor do we enable them to strike outside Ukraine.
Well, to ask you questions so close, but used to the podium. Two questions, actually. What's the latest that we can assess this claims of an attack on the Kremlin? Obviously, Secretary Blinken said take it with a shaker of salt. A large shaker of salt. Do we have to increase the size of the shaker? And then secondly is, I'm kind of curious for your thoughts on a statement Speaker McCarthy made when he was overseas in Israel, when he was asked about, Russia and Ukraine, and the expectation was in some respects that he would be skeptical of the war, but in fact he turned on the reporter, said Russia should leave Ukraine. Did that give you?
Also talked about Russia killing children.
Right,
Talked about the war crimes.
I was going to give you a direct question, but I'm sort of curious for your general thoughts on what that says about our current political moment.
So on the first question, we still don't really know what happened. So we're not making an assessment right now. I did see comments from Dmitry Peskov this morning, Putin's flak, and claiming that we had something to do with it. Washington, I can assure you that there was no involvement by the United States in this, whatever it was. It didn't involve us.
You're saying we didn't buy a drone from Radio Shack and launch it like 30 minutes away?
Basically, basically
we
what I'm
don't
saying.
do Radio Shack.
We don't do that, and we had nothing to do with this. So Peskov is just lying there, pure and simple. And then on Speaker McCarthy, look, we welcome his comments about support for Ukraine. We certainly agree that Ukraine needs to continue to receive support, as the president has said, for as long as it takes. You just saw us again, another package here this week. So we're committed to that. We're glad to see that the speaker is too. And frankly, if you look at, there's a small minority, mostly in the House, of Republicans who are becoming vocal about not supporting Ukraine. But they are a small minority. Most of the House Republicans are still in favor of supporting Ukraine. Certainly the leadership is, and we're grateful for that. I mean, there's been terrific bipartisan and bicameral support here, and that's a good thing. And again, I think Speaker McCarthy's comments spoke to that. And I agree with Joe. It was heartwarming to also see him push back on the Russian state reporter. I mean, he wasn't taking any guff from these guys. They're propaganda organs, nothing more. And it was good to hear him say that.
Boy, it was. I mean, Speaker McCarthy sent such a strong message to people who think that you can divide Americans over Ukraine.
So the U.S. is denying any involvement. Ukraine is denying any involvement. And what do you think? Let me know your thoughts here in the comments. Do you think Ukraine sent this drone all the way to Moscow, which is 300 miles or so, through Russian defenses and made it all the way to the Kremlin? Or do you think that Russia set this up and blew it up themselves conveniently for TV to record it and show it? And now they're escalating, and you can see here Russia quickly vowed to retaliate for the alleged double drone strike, calling it a planned terrorist attack. The Kremlin said both drones were shot down before they struck Putin's official residence, but has offered no evidence to back up the claim. Russia has now unleashed its own wave of drones on Ukraine in retaliation for the alleged drone attack. Ukrainian officials said the country's air defense systems destroyed 18 of 24 unmanned aerial vehicles, known as UAVs, including all of those headed for the capital of Kyiv. It was the third time the capital had been targeted in 4 days. However, the southern Ukrainian city of Kherson, which was occupied by Russian forces until they were pushed out in November of last year, bore the brunt of Moscow's payback. Officials said Russians shelling killed 21 civilians and wounded dozens more, hitting a supermarket, a train crossing, and civilian homes. So not military targets, but supermarket. And in an ominous sign of more trouble ahead, a curfew was declared in Kherson to last throughout the weekend. Some voices in Moscow have started calling for direct targeting of Zelensky himself. One general said in Kyiv that crossed another red line, predicting a strike on Ukraine's presidential palace in retaliation. Yeah, the Speaker of the Russian Parliament said in a message posted Wednesday on the Telegram messaging app that there could be no negotiations with the Zelensky regime. We will demand the use of weapons capable of stopping and destroying the Kyiv terrorist regime. And you can see here, Russian regions scrap their Victory Day parades amid fear of Ukraine strikes. Governor of regions 400 miles from the border, latest to cancel over what they're calling, quote, safety concerns and glaring admission of vulnerabilities. You guys can let me know your thoughts here on this. Russia apparently scrapping their Victory Day parades. I don't know how much of a victory they have to have parades over here, as there hasn't been much victory for them lately. So here's the question. Did Ukraine try an assassination attempt on Putin? I think it's very possible. Or did Russia do this on their own? Basically just send a drone up in the sky and detonate it in the sky and say, hey, look at what Ukraine did, and we caught it on tape. I think that's also very possible. I think it really could go either way. I mean, it obviously wasn't anywhere close to Putin where it detonated. So it really could have gone either way. You can let me know your thoughts here in the comments. Obviously, where it exploded, nobody's life was in danger. And it does seem at least a little bit suspect for it to go all the way through Russia and make it all the way to the capital there in Moscow without any, anybody being alerted to it. It does. I, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's possible. It's a 50-50. It can go either way. I mean, for it to really make it all that way, I don't know. I feel like it could go either way. I mean, I guess it's possible. I mean, I guess if I was a Ukrainian general, I guess I would be trying those things for sure. So it's a coin flip. It's a coin flip. But Ukraine could have done it, or Russia could have done it and say, "Hey, look at what they did. Look, I mean, we thwarted it. It didn't get through." So you guys can let me know your thoughts here in the comments. Either way, right? So I'll keep you up to date here. If you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe down below to our YouTube channel. It's completely free to do so you don't miss out on any new videos here. Also, click the bell icon after you subscribe. And thanks so much for liking and sharing these videos. Here's some videos you should watch next. The Fed just made a massive announcement that is going to affect millions of Americans. And the U.S. is on the brink of nuclear war. And that's a direct quote. You can see that here in this video. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.